A routine traffic stop turns physical when the driver suddenly gets out of the car.
Sit back in your car. Sit back in your car.
Run up on us like that? Excuse me? Who do you think you are?
But strangely, there is no response from the driver, Brady Mystic. Not a word.
Arms behind your back right now, or I'm gonna tase you.
Tase it.
So why didn't Brady follow the officer's instructions? It's because he's deaf.
So you guys already know this one's going to be crazy. So this is Brady Mystic from Colorado. Now, he happens to be legally deaf. He can't hear a thing. So while he's driving down the road, he's going to actually a laundromat. So he's about half a block away from the laundromat and runs a stop sign. So after he runs a stop sign, it just happens to be so close to the parking lot where the laundromat is, he pulls into the parking lot. But police who just saw him run the stop sign also pull in behind him, trying to pull him over in the parking lot. And soon as they pull Brady over, he gets out the car because he's essentially going into the laundromat. Police see him get out the car, and then all hell breaks loose. This is what happened.
Zebra, Victor 17. Sit back in your car. Sit back in your car.
Run up on us like that? Excuse me? Who do you think you are?
Now, I've stopped the video here because they've just run up on Brady. And they're giving him verbal commands. Now, if you're an officer out there, you know, they tell you, give verbal commands, because it's really not for the defendant or the person you're trying to arrest. It's for everyone else, right? You want witnesses, your body camera, whatever. You want to make sure people know that you gave verbal commands. So they're giving verbal commands. But they're giving verbal commands to a deaf guy. Now, even with all that, police just run up on him and start grabbing him. They don't try to communicate. They don't try to do any of that stuff, right? They literally just run up on him and, hey, you get out your car. Ah! So at this point in the video, Brady has two choices. The police just give him two choices. Either he better start hearing and doing what they say do, or he's about to take a vicious beating because he can't hear. Let's see what happens.
We're in a fight. We're in a fight.
Get your arm behind your back right now. Get your arm behind your back right now. Arms behind your back right now, or I'm gonna tase you.
Now, Brady's in fear. The cops have just jumped on him. They wrestled him to the ground and demand that he either start listening, which is impossible because he's deaf, or take 1,000 volts of electricity for the crime of not being able to hear. So, how is Brady going to communicate with them? They're holding him down, so it's not like he can do sign language, which is the way deaf people communicate. Let's see. Will it either be here now, you better be able to listen, you better miraculously be able to start being able to hear what we're saying? Or is he going to take electric volts? Here's what happened.
I'm gonna tase you.
Tase it.
Put your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. Other hand behind your back. Now. Other hand. Now. I'm sorry.
Coffin, Summers.
So Brady has now been shocked for the crime of being deaf and not able to listen and obey the cops' verbal commands. But unfortunately, since Brady couldn't hear them, he had to suffer a vicious beating and tasing. Now, Brady just keeps repeating, I'm deaf, until finally one of the cops hears his plea and then realizes that, hey, we've been telling this guy what to do, but he's deaf. Check this out.
Coffin, Summers.
What am I doing? Archie's one of us.
What we doing?
Roll over. Roll over to me. Sit.
What we doing?
Stay sitting.
Stop,
Sit.
dude.
I'm down.
Stay down.
What you want? Why just help me?
Don't run at us like that.
I'm down.
Just sit down. You're deaf?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want?
Stay sitting down.
So you would think this was just some horrible misunderstanding, and the police would say, oh my God, we just beat you to death and tased you because you weren't obeying verbal commands, but you couldn't because you couldn't hear what the hell we were saying. But the officers say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to say this was some misunderstanding, which it obviously is. The officers decide to arrest Brady for resisting arrest, assaulting a police officer. Remember, they're the ones who jumped on him. He's assaulting a police officer. And then they took him to the hospital. So the female cop tries to explain to Brady why he had to take this vicious beating and tasing for the crime of not being able to hear. And you'll see in this video, they actually have a sign language interpreter there helping her communicate with Brady because, he's deaf.
Okay, and you just let him know that I have one quick chance to explain this before we leave the hospital. Okay. I pulled him over for failing to stop at that stop sign. He got out of his car and approached my car very quickly. That's not how that's supposed to work. So we got out and tried to contact you. That's all I have.
Okay, I understand. I failed to stop. That's fine.
Do you understand why everything else happened?
No. When I got pulled over, I tried to come because the light was in my face, and it scared me, and I couldn't see, and I didn't like that, and I was frustrated, so I came over to see what was going over because of me. I thought maybe it was even someone else. I didn't know that I was the one. I didn't know what the reason was, but I couldn't see.
I understand that, but you should have stayed in your vehicle. Okay.
So what happened to the car?
The car was towed. And at this point, after you are released from the hospital, you're going to jail.
I didn't fight or anything. He grabbed me down and took me down on the ground. And later I got frustrated. I was trying to talk. I was trying to say something. You didn't know I was deaf.
So, are there any other questions?
No, not at this time. I don't have any more questions right now. And there's not much else I can say.
So the cops did exactly what they said they were going to do. They arrested Brady on all these felony charges for the crime of not being able to hear them when they gave him verbal commands. Tough luck for a deaf guy.
Brady was charged with assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. He spent 4 months in jail. So what should you do if you're deaf or hard of hearing and a cop pulls you over?
If I feel threatened, I'll put my hands up.
Now, to make things worse, Brady had to spend 4 months, not days, months in prison for the crime of being deaf and getting out of his car to go into the laundromat. That's all he did. He got out of his car and went to the laundromat, and they jumped on him and beat him and tased him because he couldn't hear, because the deaf man couldn't hear. Here is Brady explaining it from his perspective.
The woman police officer was on top of me, yelling at me. I'm assuming to put my hands behind my back.
Arms behind your back right now, or I'm gonna tase you.
I tried to communicate that I was deaf, but with my hands behind my back, I can't communicate that.
Now, obviously, all the charges against Brady were dropped, right? Because they're stupid. And Brady filed a lawsuit against the police department who cleared the officers of any wrongdoing. Here's Brady's lawyer explaining it.
It should be an attempt to establish a rapport and communication, some sort of baseline of understanding so that the citizen knows what's going on and the officer knows what's going on.
2 years later, Raymond Bryant is helping his clients sue the officers. Idaho Springs police say they were pulling him over for running a stop sign, and Mystic got out of his car and quickly approached their patrol car.
They didn't stop behind the vehicle to let them know that, hey, I'm pulling you over. They alleged to have observed my client running a stop sign a block away from the laundromat where he was intending to go.
So I think Brady's best claim is a Fourth Amendment claim, saying that this was an unreasonable search and seizure of his person. And when police use excessive force to seize someone, then that would be a violation of the Fourth Amendment and get you, I think, a 1983 claim. So, he's a deaf driver, and he's going to claim that police are the ones that escalated the situation because he got out of his car to go into the laundromat. They tased him without justification, and it was all because he was deaf. He couldn't hear what they were saying. If he could hear them, then he was complied. So, and I think the officers are going to say, well, the fact that he couldn't hear gave them, some level of concern, and that's the reason why they did what they did. And they're also going to point to the fact that the city did an investigation and cleared the officers.
Idaho Springs police say her partner, Hanning, broke his leg during the arrest. The former chief reviewed the incident and determined the officer's actions were appropriate.
The weird part about this case is that I can kind of see it from both sides. As an officer, you are confronted with someone, you're at a traffic stop, which is inherently dangerous for officers. The person gets out, you're giving verbal commands, everything in your training says, give verbal commands. And you give them, and the person doesn't comply. And it makes you even more concerned that the person may be hiding something or, who knows? So I do understand the officer's concern, but I do think at a point, generally, your attempt to subdue someone is generally based on what they're doing. So if the person is not fighting you back, if the person has their hands out, if the person is not actively being aggressive toward you, the officer can't jump the gun and be aggressive. And I think here, that's where you may get that little gray area here, because the officers essentially got out the car, was like, why are you out the car? Why are you out the car? And essentially accepted that as a reason to tackle this guy and do all this. And, on top of the verbal commands, this could have been easily resolved if they just, tried to communicate to him. Do you understand what we're saying? What are you doing? Why are you out of the car? They didn't seem like they did that. They just, ran on top of him, and then put him under arrest for running a red light, which was not even a serious offense. Like, let's be honest, a simple, can you hear me, may have worked to avoid all this. Now, do I think this guy should become a millionaire? No, but I do think that the police department maybe should retrain these officers, or maybe even put something in there to say, hey, let's not just automatically go to the highest level of force, necessary and arrest someone when something like this happens. Let's see if we can maybe avoid that so something like this doesn't happen again, because obviously this guy's totally innocent, but we'll see what happens. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer. And if you want to see this video before anyone else sees it, don't forget to either grab a YouTube membership, join us on Locals, or Patreon, where all the videos that we produce and we make public are there first. And on top of that, we also discuss the videos that we are thinking about doing. So you guys see articles and things and a lot of times the fans will present topics that we'll cover here on the channel. So if you're interested in that, don't forget, links are in the description. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.